are a blended family.
We 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 are a blended family.
We're a blended family.
We are a blended family.
We are a blended family.
We are a blended family.
And we are a blended family. Hi, we're Doctors Larry and Carol Snap. We're glad to have you with us today.
Okay, welcome everybody. This week it's Blended Families, week 5 of 12. We're going to be talking about the spousal relationship. That's husbands and wives, if anybody was wondering. But Carol's going to go over some announcements that she has, and then we'll get into the teaching. Towards the end, we are going to be playing a video that's 12, 13 minutes or something like that. So I'm going to erase what's on this board, do the video, and then do what's on the other board, and then wrap it up. But it's going to be Mark Gungor, a piece of one of his things, Laugh Your Way to a Better Marriage, men's brains, women's brains,
And how to trust.
and how to deal with stress.
Trust and trust people. Yeah. I wanted to give a shout out to Sandra and Randy from Wisconsin. They're new followers, and hello guys, and I hope you're warmer today than you were the first part of this week. So a special hello to Sandra and Randy. And we are still needing a little bit more money to cover the cost of the books for the class at the Dream Center down in Phoenix. Now we're looking at close to 200 people, 100 guys and 60 to 75 women. So they need to go, anyone that would like to help out with that, because we are a 501c3, so anything you donate, you will get your receipt donation letter so you can take it off your taxes. But you need to go to our website, blendedfamiliesministry.org. And the donation is at the bottom of the page. Is that where the donation button is?
There's a donation tab at the top.
Any amount would be helpful. So if you have some extra and would like to help them have their own books, that would be much appreciated.
And they can even use the donate button on this particular Facebook page.
Oh, okay, great. And then we will be doing a one-day training for premarital sometime in March, between the middle to the end of March, but I will announce that date next week, because that will be here in Phoenix, and we don't do that live yet. That's kind of something we can't, kind of keep everything private. But we do have a one-day training for you pastors and leaders from different churches out there. Contact us and we can give you some more information on that. We have taken our 12-week classes and reduced it down to an 8 or 9 hour day program to get it all done, and it works very well. Several pastors and leaders are using it in their churches here in the Valley. And that was kind of all I had, other than we had a few things that happened this week. Some special prayers were needed. And when we did our radio show, we used to reach out to everybody at the end of the show. Reach out and make somebody's day special. You don't know what's going on in their home or in their lives. And one of our daughter's friends committed suicide the other day, and it was quite devastating. So it just reminded me again that we need to be thinking of others, not just our own issues that we have. So reach out with a handshake or a hug or even just a smile, and tell people that you appreciate them being there and good to see them and whatever. So I will leave the teaching now to Larry. Thank you.
All right. Okay. This is another one of my favorites, especially when we get into the waffles and spaghetti part. But this is all about the spousal relationship. This is husbands and wives for the most part. But it's always good to start in the beginning. God created man in His image, and He created them male and female. And then Genesis 1:28, it says, God blessed them and told them to be fruitful, multiply, and take dominion over everything that moves. So, what do we have here? We have God creating man in His image and then telling that image of Himself to go forward, be fruitful, multiply, and take charge. So He didn't just create them, He created them with a purpose. Now, the thing that He wanted multiplied, it's important to realize that what He wanted them to multiply was His image. Not just their stuff. It was His image that He wanted multiplied all over the planet that He had created. So, part of that being fruitful and multiplying, the purpose, females, and this is 99.9% true in pretty much everything that exists on the planet. There's a couple of exceptions, but for the most part, females produce eggs and males fertilize them. That's biology 101, right? So that's part of the being fruitful and multiplying process. Now, the take dominion over everything part is men are supposed to be husbands first, and then fathers. And part of that purpose is to guide, guard, and govern their families. In some other classes, we talk about being a prophet, priest, and king. The prophet is supposed to be speaking the word in the home. The priest provides the spiritual covering in the home. And the king is the one who is ultimately responsible and accountable for the governance in the home. God is going to, at some point, say, what'd you do with that family I gave you? Right? Now, from my understanding, He doesn't ask the wife, what did you do with the family I gave you? Because she's not the one that's accountable for that. She does have responsibility for it, but she doesn't have to answer to God for it, at least in my understanding. Okay, so the prophet, priest, and king, and part of being the husband and the father, especially the father, is for the children, to reflect the image of our Heavenly Father. Now, the way the last 2 or 3 generations have been, there's been a lot of broken families, there's been a lot of spiritual warfare against fathers. So there's a lot of families that didn't have a father around. So how does one develop a good idea of what a Heavenly Father would be that actually loves you unconditionally, right? You have no example. And that's where we are today. Excuse me. Very few people anymore have a good image of what a father should be, so they have a hard time having a relationship with God. Because I know God is this thing out there and He created the universe and all this kind of stuff, but they don't understand how that father loves his children and wants to bless them and corrects them when they do wrong, and all that kind of stuff. So it's really important for the fathers to be godly fathers as well as husbands. Part of being a godly father is showing your kids how to be a godly husband, right?
Yeah.
Women, supposed to be the wives, should be wives first, then mothers. It's hardly ever the case anymore. But they're supposed to be the queen, because they're number 2 in charge. When the king's not there, the queen is in charge. Okay? Teachers, supposed to be nurturers. They train up the kids. They take care of the kids. all that kind of stuff. Complementors. God gave us men, wives, as a gift, a helpmate, right? Somebody that will complement us, that has the gifts that we don't have, so that we can be better together than either one of us apart. You know, the sum is greater than the individual pieces here. That's what that's talking about. Somebody that's on your team, somebody on your side, that's going to try to help you win in life, not try to beat you.
You said there's a difference between completing
Right,
and complementing.
right. Yeah, this is not Jerry Maguire. You complete me, right? That's not what a wife is for, or a husband. Your spouse is not the one who's supposed to complete you. You're supposed to be whole before you get into a relationship, right? Because God likes to multiply, and He wants to do a whole 1 times a whole 1, so He gets 1. Another whole 1, right? Oops. 1 times 1 equals 1. So a whole 1 times a whole 1 is a whole 1.
Amen.
A half times a half is a fourth. So when you start multiplying less than whole, things get even smaller. And we go through that a lot in the Beyond Divorce class. We want people to be whole so that they're ready for something that God has for them down the road. But if you try to get into a relationship and you're not healed and whole yet, you're basically just going to be sucking the life out of somebody else. And if they're not whole, you're just going to be exchanging hoses on a vacuum cleaner, kind of, you know.
And those people become projects. And
Yeah.
you don't need projects.
Well, yeah, who needs a project, right? You get into a relationship to have a, you know, to be blessed, right? To have an abundant life.
I wanted to ask something about, how the children, how you model. I remember someone saying the best way for kids to know that their love is how the parents love each other, how they see the dad loving the wife.
Yeah, exactly.
So modeling that for the kids.
That was like Pastor Brad was talking last night at the service, you know. How do you know somebody's a Christian? Because they love people. They love their neighbors, right? Okay, so wives should be complementors. We're not looking for completers because we should be whole to begin with. The other thing is they should be builders of their husbands, right? Which is kind of like being the complementer, but this is like, and it's not, hey, you got nice hair today. I mean, that's not the kind of compliments I'm talking about here. You know, or you got, your eyes are pretty, or, whatever that is. It's somebody that comes alongside and helps you do the job that's being done, and, they're just helping. But the complimenting part is this part, the builders of their husbands. One of the Proverbs says, the wise woman builds her house, but the foolish one tears it down with her own hands.
And words.
And especially words, yeah. And we'd like to say, you end up with the kind of marriage that you build.
He didn't write it down.
And there's 2 kinds of marriages, one made in heaven, one made in hell. And you get the one you make.
Right.
Yes.
It's not somebody else's fault,
Right.
right? You got to own this stuff, right? You own your stuff, let them own their stuff. Don't be messing on other people's stuff.
Larry, where's that scripture at from Proverbs that the woman...
I think it's... seems like it's maybe 17, somewhere in 17. Not 100% sure, but it's in Proverbs, I know.
Yes.
Could be 14.
Okay.
Pretty sure it's in the teens. Okay, so God created man in His image. He wanted His image to be multiplied over the planet. Basic biology. some more on the purpose of what men are supposed to be doing, women are supposed to be doing. And then we look at 1 Corinthians 7, 1 through 7. That's where it really says there should be one man and one woman. That's what marriage is. It also says your body is not yours when it comes to that sexual relationship. Do not defraud one another. And the wife's body doesn't belong to her, it belongs to the husband, and vice versa. So your body belongs to your spouse, is what it's saying. And we also understand that God intended marriage to be entered into by two people who are virgins, right?
Yeah.
God is all against sexual immorality. So, and I think most of us have probably been there, done that, but we understand now there's always this comparison
Yeah.
that's oftentimes a problem, you know. So we run into those kind of things in a blended family because you're usually been married before, right? So hopefully that marriage got consummated somewhere along the line. So that is not really a possibility, but it is possible to do a spiritual reset.
Reset button.
Right? No cohabitating, no premarital sex, and those kind of things. You abstain from that until you get married. That kind of does a reset. You confess any of the premarital stuff as a sin and do that kind of stuff just to start off clean.
But it has to be a mutual agreement as to a time frame.
Yeah, it's something that is agreed upon.
Right.
It's all about agreement.
Yeah. Well, one of the couples that we had, she said 3 months. And the guy, what? We've been together for 7 years, 3 months. So we said, hey, you have to be realistic about this. That was a bit excessive.
So and this part about your body is not yours. That's also something that has to be agreed upon, right? I mean, don't take me literally here that, okay, slave, come here. It's not like that. It's you have to be reasonable, you have to be agreeable, you have to be in the mood. But if you're just, like here, love gives, lust takes, right? That's true. If this is a lust issue, you're just taking. If it's a love thing, you're giving, right? And that's what's expected is you love one another, so you're giving of yourself
To each other,
right? Yeah. Now, the way Satan has perverted the whole sex thing is something you get.
Yeah.
You got to go get it.
Yeah.
Versus giving, right? And that's where we are today. There is so much pornography and all this other stuff. Everything has been perverted to where it's just a commodity, something you just go buy or sell, and that's just lust.
Yeah.
Which we have lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. Those are the 3 major sins, right?
Everything stems out of those.
Just break it down. Love is something you're giving. And that was part of what they were talking about last night is love, right? Love never fails, but love gives. The whole lust issue is you're trying to get something for yourself versus giving of yourself.
That's good.
Right. Okay, it's 9:34. Okay, I'm going to take a minute to get this video thing set up and erase the board so we can show this on the thing. And then we'll do that. It's 12 minutes or somewhere in there. All about how people's brains work. And it's really good to understand that. When you understand how your spouse's brain is working, how they process information, it helps you understand what's going on. So let me go do that. Okay, so this is a little bit of Mark Gunger's Laugh Your Way to a Better Marriage.
Alrighty then. Hello and welcome to Laugh Your Way to a Better Marriage. I'm so glad you're here. This is the marriage seminar for people who hate marriage seminars. Hoo-ah! All right? I get a kick out of watching the couples when they first come in on Friday nights. You know, the girls, they're all lit up, you know, just... I got him here, you know. and the guy's going, oh man, I can't believe, I got here. But it's cool, guys. You can relax. You're going to love it. This is not one of those let's beat up on the men for not being women seminars. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. And what is it with that anyway? Man, you ask a lot of women to describe their ideal man, and they'll describe another woman. What's up with that? So we're not going to do that. We are going to just go with this thing in a normal, healthy way. We're men. Men are men. We're not sick. We're not perverted. We're not twisted. We're not broken. We're men. All right, and God, and God made us the way we are for a reason. And I'm going to show you girls what that reason is. Okay, and I'm going to try and explain to you the world of men a little bit through this thing. We'll also discuss the women's side of things as well. But I really want you to understand this men thing. Women are much more complicated than men. Men are very simple. Simple. S-E-X. Simple. All right, so... That's what I'm talking about, okay? So we're going to have fun. We should have a really, really great time. Now, tonight we're going to do a session called The Tale of Two Brains. Hence, the two brains. And we're going to be discussing how men and women think very differently from each other. Why is that important? Because men and women are very quick to make into heart problems what are essentially head problems. A woman acts a certain way. A guy feels she doesn't care about him. He says, well, there's something wrong with your heart. You don't care about me. No. It's the way she processes information. The same with a guy. A man thinks in a certain way, and a woman thinks there's something wrong with his heart. No, it's his head. Okay? So I'm going to try and explain to you what that's all about. Then tomorrow morning we're going to do a session called Why Does He Do That? Why does she do that? Okay? See, it's one thing to understand men and women in general. It's another one to understand the one you got stuck with. Okay? So I'm going to show you how you can discover specifically what makes your spouse tick. And it's powerful information that will absolutely revolutionize your relationship. All right, then we're going to do what I call the Yo Mama session. And it's called the number one key to incredible sex. And boys, if you miss that, there's just something wrong with you, okay? So you gotta check. And then we're going to end with how to stay married and not kill anybody, okay? All very deep, emotional stuff. Now, a lot of people say, well, what's your background? What's your deal? Well, my background is that I'm a minister. Now, if you're not much of a churchgoer, don't let that make you nervous. Some of my biggest fans are heathens. All right? And this isn't one of those things where we sneak you in and then beat you over the head with a Bible. All right? But I do have a Bible verse I need to show you. Okay, because I found a Bible verse that if you follow the advice from this one Bible verse, you will never, ever, ever have a problem in marriage. How many think that's worth seeing? All right, you follow the advice from this one verse, you'll never have a problem in marriage.
is Christian Living Radio.
It says it's good for a man not to marry. All right? So, well, why would he say that? That's such a terrible thing to say. Because he goes on to explain, he who marries will have trouble in this life. You know, people come up to me, Pastor Mark, something's wrong. I say, what is it? We got trouble in our marriage. I go, no, that's about right. Hey, there ain't nothing wrong. That's pretty normal. Now, you don't hear these verses read at weddings very often. Kind of downplay that. You don't see those on Hallmark cards. You don't see them on cakes with pretty calligraphy. He who marries will have trouble, but it's too late for you. You say, if that's the case, then why get married? Because marriage is absolutely wonderful. It's great. It's fantastic. But it's not that it's without trouble. All right? And I want to show one other verse to you. Now, you don't have the deep theological training that I have, so you might have a hard time understanding this verse. But I'll try and explain it to you. This is found in Proverbs. And it goes like this. Where no oxen are, the manger is clean. Let me explain that to you, okay? What does that mean? What it means, if you're going to have an ox, you're going to have ox poo, all right? Now, if you don't like poo, and most of us are not real big fans of poo, if you don't like poo, the temptation is get rid of the ox. Preach it, brother. No. I don't want you to get rid of the ox, all right? You know, so well, why would you keep the ox around? Because he goes to the second half of the verse. It says, because much increase comes by the strength of the ox. Well, now there's the catch-22. On the one hand, we all love the benefit of the ox, but nobody likes the poo. And what he's trying to tell us here is you cannot have one without the other. There is no such thing as a poo-free marriage. It just doesn't exist. Unless you shoot the ox. Okay? But that leads to other problems. So this weekend is not about attaining a state of perfection in your life. All right? It's about getting a proper positive to poo ratio in your life. You see, because if all you get is poo, then you got one sick ox. Are you hearing me? All right? So, but there's no such thing as a poo-free marriage. For those of you who are having a hard time grasping this, I have a mathematical version of it. It goes, ox equals poo over positive. Some say positive over poo. But anyway, it's the ratio that we want to get going here. Okay? Now, marriage is a wonderful institution. Statistically speaking, we know that married people are healthier than single people. They are actually happier than single people, assuming you're doing this right. Or you can be profoundly unhappy. They actually make more money than single people, and I'll mention a little bit later why that's true. Okay? They have better sex than single people. Now, you don't see that in our culture, in all the movies and shows, it's the single people all having really great sex, and the married people are, someone will say, well, how's your sex life? Are you kidding? I'm married. And it's not true. It's a bunch of baloney. Okay? Married people have great sex compared to single people. Single people don't even know what they're doing, for crying out loud. Okay? And statistically speaking, married people live longer than single people. This is particularly true for men. Statistically speaking, one of the most dangerous things a man can do in America today is remain single. It is the equivalent of smoking 2.5 packs of cigarettes a day. It's true. They found that if you take of someone who has 2.5 packs of cigarettes a day and the health problems and the shortness of life and all his difficulties, and a single guy is pretty much the same. I guess the worst would be a single guy who smokes 2.5 packs of cigarettes a day. All right? But marriage is wonderful. It's great. It rocks. I love it. Okay? If you do it right. Now, the problem here is so many people don't do it right. And it's not that they don't know, not that they don't want to do it, they don't know what to do. We live in a culture today that seems for somehow in the relationship area to be completely clueless. We seriously don't know what to do. Now, this weekend, what I want to do is show you specific things you can do that will absolutely energize and transform your marriage life. How many think that's worth hearing? Yeah, okay? So, now I want to talk to you about what I call the laws of relational physics. You see, the laws of physics affect everybody, whether you believe them or not. Okay? If I step off this stage, I'm probably, in all likelihood, going to go down. If I start floating around, you might want to freak out and run. But why? Because the laws of physics affect... Well, I don't believe that. It doesn't matter what I believe. I'm going down. Right? Doesn't matter if I'm a born-again Christian. Doesn't matter if I'm a heathen. I'm going... Because it affects everybody. Well, just like that, there are laws of relational physics. And they affect everybody, whether you believe them or not. Now, this might come as a little bit of a shock to those of you who are church people, especially hearing from a minister. But the truth is, you don't have to be a Christian to have a great marriage. I know a lot of heathens that have wonderful marriages. I know a lot of born-again Christians who have horrible marriages. Why is that? They're breaking all the rules. And they assume somehow that the rules don't apply to them, but they do. Here's an example. If you're driving a car 80 miles an hour around a curve that says only 40, and you keep going 80, chances are you're going to get hurt. Even if you're listening to a Christian radio station. Even if you have a statue of Jesus on the... he might be going, but... Why is that? Because the laws of physics still affect you, but for some miracle, you're going to get hurt. Same true with relational physics. And I want to explain that to you, and we'll take a look at that. Now, this weekend, I'm going to be speaking to you in basic stereotypes. In other words, women generally tend to be a certain way. Men generally tend to be a certain way. But they're not all that way. I get it. Okay, some of the people that just have a cow. Well, I don't know, that's true for all men. I'm admitting it's not, all right? Just generally speaking, we don't have time to get into all the shades of gray. But generally speaking, men are a certain way, women are a certain way. If I start describing something that's not you, don't have a cow, just interpolate for your relationships. In Debbie's and I relationship, there are areas where we're completely opposite of a typical man and a woman. I remember when I was first studying this stuff, I thought, oh man, I'm a woman. So just interpolate. I will say this, that if you tend to be one way in a certain relationship, your wife generally will be the other way. I don't think I've run across a couple yet. I'm sure they're out there that act the exact same way. So if you break the rules, chances are your spouse is breaking them right with you. And you just flip on this deal. Okay? For example, a typical stereotype. Men are more interested in sex than their wives. Why would you say that? Because generally it's true. But it's not always true. There are a lot of relationships where the wife is much more interested in sex than her husband. If you're here tonight and your wife is much more interested in sex than you are, I think I speak for all the men here when I say that we hate you. Please don't tell us who you are. We will hurt you, all right? So just go with the flow. It'll be cool. We'll have a great time discussing this thing about marriage. Now, I believe marriage is a life-giving institution. We live in a culture today that believes marriage is a life-sucking institution. It will suck the life out of you. All right? And that's why we say, make sure you're old enough. Make sure you have enough money. Make sure you have enough education. Make sure you've been dating for 37 years first. Make sure that, get all this stuff. Why? You got to get everything together and ready so that when you say I do, you can withstand the But it's not that way. It'll give you life if you'll do it right. If you do this right, marriage can be the closest thing to heaven on earth. If you do it wrong, well, you fill in the blanks. Okay? So now, we're going to start discussing men's brains, women's brains, and how they're very different from each other. Now, I want to start with men's brains. All right? Now, men's brains are very unique. Men's brains are made up of little boxes. And we have a box for everything. We've got a box for the car. We got a box for the money. We got a box for the job. We got a box for you. We got a box for the kids. We got a box for your mother somewhere in the basement. We got boxes everywhere. And the rule is the boxes don't touch. When a man discusses a particular subject, we go to that particular box, we pull that box out, we open the box, we discuss only what is in that box. All right? And then we close the box and put it away, being very, very careful not to touch any other boxes. Sorry, my Catholic upbringing got in there for a minute, but I'm not a Catholic, but I went to Catholic school when I was little. I had a nun who taught on hell like she was born and raised there. I mean, I'll never forget it, but it did me good, actually. It was a good thing. Now, women's brains are very, very different from men's brains. Women's brains are made up of a big ball of wire. And everything is connected to everything. The money's connected to the car, and the car's connected to your job, and your kids are connected to your mother, and everything's connected to everything. And it's like... It's like the internet superhighway. Okay? And it's all driven by energy that we call emotion. It's just... It's one of the reasons why women tend to remember everything. Because if you take an event and you connect it to an emotion, it burns in your memory and you can remember it forever. The same thing happens for men. It just doesn't happen very often because, quite frankly, we don't care. Women tend to care about everything. And she just loves it. Okay? Now, men, we have a box in our brain that most women are not aware of. This particular box has nothing in it. It's true. It's true. In fact, we call it the nothing box. And of all the boxes a man has in his brain, the nothing box is our favorite box. If a man has a chance, he'll go to his nothing box every time. That's why a man can do something seemingly completely brain dead for hours on end. You know, like fishing.
Yeah. Eric and Vanessa, is that the first time you've seen it? Yeah.
She won't walk away.
That's where a lot of
That's the first time you guys have seen that?
Yeah. Rosa, this is the first time you've seen it? Yeah. What did you think?
I thought it was very correct.
Very correct.
Kelly and Deborah, you guys have seen it before, and of course Karen has. But
I
she
will give
hasn't
one
seen it.
piece of advice.
Okay.
We've seen it before, but you need to see it consistently so that you can remember. Because I just went through that yesterday. I was talking to him, and he wants to solve something for me, and I look at him, I say, "No, I'm not." No, this big solution that he had, and I look at, "No, I'm not." So we have to watch it over and over so we remember.
Well, it's probably seen it 20 times now. It still makes me laugh.
It's so true.
There is so much truth in it.
Yeah.
And, back in week 3, we're talking about celebrate your differences, right? Mm-hmm. This is part of that. You have to realize men and women don't think the same. Mm-hmm. So many times in counseling sessions, it should just be more like me.
Right.
But it's not the way it works. So each of us process information differently. Our emotional quotients are different. How we perceive things are different. How we react to things are different. Just men are men and women are women. They just see things different. But as a married couple, or being in a relationship, you have to realize this person that you're with is different than you. Mm-hmm. And part of the marriage thing, the spousal relationship, is just taking the time to get to know this person, how their brain works, what their gifts are, and that kind of stuff. One thing that I think he talked about it somewhere in his 4-hour thing is because the brains are different, and Pastor Leo used to teach on this. There's something that happens to a male baby in the womb. There's the testosterone chemicals do something to the brain and kind of rearrange how the networks work. That doesn't happen to the female babies. So really what happens is as men, we tend to use one half of the brain at a time. We get to use both halves, but just not at the same time as much. So, give us a break. We're sort of brain damaged from birth.
That means women are smarter.
No, not necessarily. They just get to use. They're using more of their brain to connect everything to everything.
Larry, one of the things talking about that, I grew up with 6 sisters. However, I was close to my dad. I was the son he didn't have.
Okay.
So, and I was telling Kelly when we're watching that, well, I love fishing because, I used to do that. Well, there's certain things at the men's brain, and what I realized is that the more time you spend with that person, the more you compliment. It becomes, I like visiting the empty box every once in a while alone by myself. And that's because the more time you spend and the more years, you'll understand and you'll compliment one another. Say, hey, I can visit that site. I don't mind doing that. And I think I attribute mine to growing up around my dad.
Right.
That it's learned behavior, or you have a better understanding, or compliment one another on that.
Right. Yeah, very true. And, this is very general. Obviously there's exceptions. Some ladies, their brain works more like a guy. They're more logical than relational, for example. Yeah, there's always the exception. But generally speaking, men are more today and tomorrow. Because of that thing that happens before we're born with the brain, it gives us the ability. I mean, you look at it as a gift, right? The gift is you have the ability to focus on one thing instead of being aware of all this other stuff going on at the same time, right? So you're more focused. You can, work on a car engine, or do something kind of mindless like fishing. You can just sit there and do that one thing and not worry about it. Both of us, men and women, both have today. That's the one thing we have in common, is like right now. Men tend to be looking, because that's the way we're wired, to be the visionaries. Here's where we're going, and we want to get there. We could care less what happened yesterday or 10 minutes ago, right? Especially if something bad happened. We don't want to go there. We don't want to stay there. We just want to get away from it and go somewhere else. So we're looking to the future and what's happening right now and where we're going. So we want to be the leaders, the visionaries, where we're going and all that. The women tend to be, like right now, but they're more of the historian, the relational. So everybody's birthdays, anniversaries, who did what, when, and all that. That's kind of, their nature to keep track of those things. And it's all that relational stuff. Who did what and when, right? Now, the other thing, though, is it's a little tougher to forgive.
Yeah.
Because it's harder to forget.
Yeah, you guys want to forget everything and move on. No. We have to revisit and find out what broke down in the marriage or in the relationship so we can repair it and make sure that doesn't happen again.
Yeah. And like he said, a lot of the repairing is for the men to just shut up and listen.
Right.
Right? And that was one of the things I learned real quick through counseling, was sometimes you just have to listen and validate feelings,
Right.
and that fixes whatever needs to be fixed. It's not like, so what's the problem? Okay, let me go fix it. Tell me what it is, and then shut up, and then I'll go fix it, and then we can get back to normal. No, that's not how that works. Right? Hearing the problem is validating the feelings.
Right.
And it's, for a guy, that's not that easy sometimes to just, because we don't want to listen. That's old news, and that's why, in a lot of counseling sessions, we keep hearing about how the wife tends to keep bringing up the past. Well, that's the way the brain works.
And that's normal for a woman to do that.
Yeah, it's part of the nature.
She's just being, she's never going to forgive me, but yet she told me she forgave me. Well, that's just normal for a woman's reaction. And when she finally makes sense of everything and knows how to repair those mistakes, then she can move on and you all can move on together. But it's very important that the woman go back and figure it all out.
Yeah, and I think one thing along those lines that he was talking about that's really important, a lot of times she doesn't know how she feels.
Right.
Until she talks about it. And then she kind of figures out, okay, well, that's how I feel about that. Well, then once she figures that out, then she can kind of figure out what to do with the feelings. Right? Forgive, not forgive, hold a grudge, whatever it's going to be for a time.
Or trusting again, which is the hardest one.
Yeah.
redo.
Right. So men tend to be today and tomorrow, and women tend to be today and yesterday, just because of the way the brains are made. Okay, Ephesians 5:21 to 33, that's basically from 21 to the end of the chapter. It starts there at 21, it says, submitting yourselves one to another. Okay? You're equals in value, not in purpose. Okay? Big difference. God sees you as equally valuable. One is not more valuable than the other. But you don't have the same purpose. And part of what's going wrong in culture today is everybody's trying to be the same as everybody else in purpose. What they really want is equal value, but they're trying to become equal in value through what they're doing. They don't seem to understand that because God has been eliminated from so much of everyday life, they don't understand they're created equally in the eyes of God. So their whole basis for being equal is way off. They're looking at it, paychecks, jobs, performance, and all that. Well, they missed the whole point. But in this one, it's submitting yourselves one to another. You're equal in value, not in purpose, and not equal in performance. It also is, put each other before yourself. It's mutual respect. I love you, I love me. We're good. But if you're not whole, then you're not going to see somebody else as being whole either. Because you're going to be, the odds are you're going to be a whole lot more critical of someone else if you're not feeling you're all right. Because now you're looking, you're not okay, you're not safe with you, so you don't see anybody else as being okay. So you start picking at them. Okay, husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church. Well, the church is the bride of Christ, and he died for her. It's a pretty high standard. It's kind of scary, right? But one of the other scriptures is, there is no greater love than to lay down your life for a friend, right? Which is, you hear so many stories of guys in the military, somebody jumps on a hand grenade or something just to save 2 or 3 other guys. That's true love. Is. But you can't really do that if you don't know where you're going. If you have a strong belief that whatever I do here is just temporary, and if when I die I'm going to heaven, then it's not as big a deal to give yourself up, because hey, you're going to heaven. Wives, okay, this is Ephesians 5:33 here. Husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church. The church is the bride of Christ, and he died for her. Wives, respect your husbands. We do a thing, it's chapter 11 or 12, we talk about respect. And we do the big circle, and without love, she reacts. Without respect, and without respect, he reacts without love. But wives, respect your husbands, and that's based, in the scripture, it's based on position, not performance. We've heard it a lot of times over the years, well, if he would do this, then I would respect him. So,
husbands say the same things about the wife.
Well, that's that circle, right?
Right.
Well, if she would respect me, then I'd love her.
Yeah.
Right? You do what you're supposed to do, then I'll do what I'm supposed to do.
And that's not how God wants it.
No, well, that's conditional love.
Right.
Right? If you do what you're supposed to do, then I'll do what I'm supposed to do. But if you're not, then I'm not. Well, if you're not, then they're not either.
God's not going to bless the relationship.
So we do talk about that respect thing later on. And there is a big difference between position and performance. Now, when it comes to respect, yeah, you can earn it through your performance, and as Christians, we're supposed to do that. You know, a big part of the Christian life is being obedient and doing the right things out of love.
Yeah.
But there are certain parts of respect that are based on position, like God, right? Love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Why? Because He's God. Not because of what He does, who He is, right? And kids need to respect their parents because it's their parents, right? Respect your elders, right? That was kind of beat into my head as a kid, right? So certain types of respect are built on performance, and you earn it because you do what you say you're going to do. You know, you set goals, you achieve them, you make promises, you keep them, you know, those kind of things. But there are certain things that are just based on position. God has put people in certain positions, and we are supposed to respect them with that understanding that God put them there. Nobody is anywhere that God didn't allow them to be there. Kings, presidents, you know, they didn't get there if God didn't want them there. So we just need to continue to put God first, understand He's in charge, not us, and whatever is happening is because He's allowing it to happen. And, you know, when you look at it that way, then you don't get so stressed out about things not going the way you wanted them to do. So, okay, what is it? Quarter after almost. Any other comments, questions? And apologies for the technical difficulties. I'll probably edit the video. We can always edit the audio. That's easy. The video's not that hard either, but it takes longer. So,
The position and performance is important because it goes back to respect and authority. And you know, the scripture tells us that if we don't respect authority, it's like rebellion, and rebellion is like witchcraft. So,
right.
You know, God has this. You know, and you did that last week, I believe, about the different order, and it's based on position.
Chairman of the board and the CEO.
Yeah, it's based on position, not performance. But it doesn't mean that, you know, you can go out and be a wicked king. You should be a good king. And if you're a wicked king, I mean, God will deal with you.
And yeah, in the Old Testament, God allowed a lot of evil kings to become kings to chastise His children.
Yeah.
Put them into captivity and different things. Deborah.
One of the things I like to use the analogy of it, just talking in general in the world, there's a scripture in the Bible where it's about the coin where Jesus was speaking and he said, render to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, when he was showing him whose face is on this coin. A lot of times even in our society, we may not like the government, we may not like those that are in charge or even people in authority, but we might not agree with them, but the Lord commands us to give to them what belongs to them, because they have to answer for that, not us.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And we're always, even with people in authority, we're always like going against and not agreeing. I don't agree with a lot of things, however, I am instructed to give to them what belongs to them.
Right. And, you know, you obey God first, and then everybody else.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, you know, the whole submission little or flow chart in the beginning, right? It's both the husband and the wife have to answer to God first, and then each other.
Yeah.
And then the wife to the husband, right? So it's not, you don't get to the third step if you haven't taken the first two. So, but yeah, you answer to God, but He also instructs us to obey man's laws as well.
He tells us to pray for those in leadership. That's where the power of our, because if God puts them in there, that power of prayer makes the difference. He didn't tell us to go rebel.
No.
Go overthrow the government. Not that, you know, there might be some times that he calls us to do things such as, how, in the American Revolution, we rebelled against the King of England. But, basically it's to pray for those that are in authority over us so that God can begin to deal with those. And that's the same with the husband and wife. Mm-hmm. Praying for each other and knowing that God is going to be the one to deal with each person's heart and trust that God will turn the situation around that needs to be turned around. Mm-hmm. But again, looking to God for his wisdom of what you need to do about each situation.
Right.
Yeah, Jesus could have told that crowd, give to Caesar what's Caesar's. Don't rebel now, because I got a big plan for the Roman Empire. I'm going to put a burning cross in the sky and show Constantine, and in one fell swoop, turn most of the known world Christian.
Right.
So, we don't know God's plan, but he has one.
And, there's so many examples of the evil kings being, raised up. Mostly to, punish the Israelites, the people, the Hebrews, because they were being sinners and they were, turning their backs on God. So God says, "Well, okay, I can deal with that." Mm-hmm. So then they end up, 50, 100, 200 years or 400 years in captivity, right? Mm-hmm. And then God says, "Okay, that's enough," and then brings somebody along to get them out. But
Thank you all for joining the Blended Families Ministry program today. This ministry was created to help blended families learn how to use biblical tools that will help you thrive. We are Doctors Larry and Carol Snap, and we invite you to listen to our weekly shows here on ChristianLivingRadio.com and to visit our website, blendedfamiliesministry.org, to learn more about the ministry and all that we do. Thank you, and God bless.
Christian living, Christian living. Christian Living Radio. It's a lifestyle. Christian living, Christian living. Christian Living Radio. It's a lifestyle.
Christian Living Radio, spreading the good news of Jesus Christ 24/7. Our goal is to bring you a life-changing word through music and diverse programming, like the one you're listening to now. Pastor Kenyatta Goins is the visionary of Christian Living Radio, and he's dedicated to the idea that Christians should even have a more prominent presence in the marketplaces. Maybe you need prayer for yourself and or your family, maybe for a friend. We'd be privileged to stand in the gap for you. If you're listening to this broadcast, click on the Contact Us tab and send us your prayer request. We'd also like to hear from you if you have something on your mind or just give us some feedback. We support many ministries, so maybe you'd like to make a one-time or a monthly recurring donation. We believe that when you sow into these ministries, you'll indeed be blessed. And of course, if you sow into this show in particular, we believe that it's a blessing for you, so please consider sponsoring us. There's a special area under the Donate tab where you can send your monetary gift or call 520-812-6363. That's 520-812-6363 to receive more information about sponsorship. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for tuning in to ChristianLivingRadio.com. Blended Families Ministry. We bring them to you each and every week, twice weekly, and on demand on all of our networks. Right now we want to let you know that we're praying for our country, our nation, and those that are ill right now. This COVID-19 has taken our world by storm. And Christian Living Radio is a faith-based radio station. And we believe that through prayer, God can come in and clean this thing all up. This is a notice to us all to band together as brothers and sisters in Christ and love on one another through this time. While we're practicing our safe distances, our washing of our hands, and just being obedient not to spread anything else. So as always, just practice that, but pray. Please pray for our country. And as always, too, we are a community-based radio station and network that's global now. And, your donations and your support is how we keep this on the air. So please give to ChristianLivingRadio.com. If you go to our website, there's a donate button there. You can give to us through PayPal, Cash App. There's many different sources, but we're dependent on your help and your support to keep us going, so we can help others. We take that money and we sow seeds back into people's lives. Right now, we'll buy toiletries and stuff for people, help the elderly. It's very important that you support this ministry. So with that being said, I'm Pastor G. Thank you for your time, your ear, your love, and your support. May God's best be yours.